we are on. Hi, Michelle.
Hello, Nanda.
So, thanks for finding the time.
My pleasure to be here.
So, you're a singer, songwriter, you're a published author, and you're a in-demand keynote speaker.
Yeah. Yes, I'm a busy woman.
Okay, so it's all to do with a lot of creative part of your brain that you operate from, right?
Yes.
So you then started art as a therapy, would you say?
My story is a little bit different, I guess,
Uh-huh.
than a lot of artists. I came to painting, visual art, very late in life.
Uh-huh.
But I've been a singer-songwriter, musician, I guess, for the majority of my life, at least 3+ decades.
Uh-huh.
I just took an interest in painting only a few years ago in 2017, and it really kind of opened me up and took me down a self-discovery path that I hadn't been up to that point, into my past experiences in a different way than I had explored before. I mean, I really think that through any form of creativity, that we access a certain part of ourselves that really is a very innate, very instinctual, you know, very, very much as a creative source of a way of being, actually. And even though I've been a songwriter, even though I've, you know, practiced the art of music for a long, long time, I'd never really branched out into any other kinds of art forms before.
Okay.
Or I should say established art forms, because if you ask me the definition of creativity or of art, I think it's almost everything.
Right.
You know, it's everything from cooking a gourmet meal to planting a garden. You know,
Right.
it's all using your imagination, is using, you know, you bring yourself to the picture. But when I actually started painting back a few years ago, and it was like the dam opened up, you know,
Right.
the top came off the fire hydrant, and I started, I guess, expressing a lot of feelings that I have been burying for a long time. And I found it an interesting way to express myself that I'd never explored before, and it was soothing as well. But the real big transformation happened with me when I actually started painting my songs.
Right.
Yeah, and that's a couple of years ago. And I took a bunch of my original songs and I painted them. Now, what made this an interesting process, Nanda, is that, you know, some of these songs I had written when I was quite a young woman, you know, in my 20s, in my 30s. I'm in my mid-50s right now. So when I went back into, you know, the experiences that allowed me to make that song in the beginning, you know, maybe when I was 25 or when I was 32 or whenever, you know, I really saw how much of a different person I am. Because, I mean, we are always changing. We're always evolving. We're always growing.
Right.
But to look at my life with that span in mind, wrapped around creativity, the creativity of writing the song and the creativity of making the painting, it made me see my experiences completely different. And so what happened was I really started focusing in on the lessons in my experience, because that's what I wanted to bring out on the canvas. I wanted to bring out the meaning, the personal meaning, the point of it all for me. What did I take from that experience? It wasn't just something that happened to me, right? And I had this deep desire to be able to really understand what it meant for my life, what had happened to me. And, you know, unfortunately, I've had a lot of adversity in my life to deal with. And of course, I've written a lot of songs about that
Right.
adversity.
Right.
So that's kind of where I ended up going into the deep well of darkness that I actually had inside of myself to find light, to
Mm.
find meaning, to find purpose in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I put together a live, I call it a live performance
Mm.
exhibition, in a
Mm-hmm.
sense, where I developed a short 2.5 hour show.
Mm-hmm.
And in front of audiences, I delivered, the story about the experience, what had happened, how I had written the song, the emotions, the feelings, the things that I was experiencing when I did write the song,
Mm-hmm.
in some cases decades ago,
Mm-hmm.
and how I feel now. Like
Mm-hmm.
I expressed that journey,
Mm-hmm.
and audiences really related to it. Like they
Right.
really related to it because, we're all different, but we're not so different.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
We experience things on a similar emotional plane, I
Of course.
think,
Of course.
right? And that's what people connected with in this. I called it the Song Series show. They
Okay.
connected with that. But audience kept coming up to me and saying, "Oh, gosh, Michelle, I wish I could sit and listen to you for hours," kind of thing, which was very flattering, of course. But they wanted more of the story. They wanted more of the background. They wanted to see the journey in a bigger picture.
Mm-hmm.
So I gave them that. I wrote Stepping Stones, which is my memoir, about these experiences, about writing the songs, about making the paintings, and what I've learned from it. So yeah, so and I actually recorded the songs as well. So I have
Right.
an
Yeah.
accompanying album with those two. But that powerful experience of being in front of people, and even though I've been a performer,
Mm-hmm.
For, like I said, decades. But when you're up there singing, a Beatles song
Mm-hmm.
compared to your own song, and you're talking about your own life, it's a different story, right?
It is.
It's a different story. And I was in a different place when I was doing my own show, because, you have to be so vulnerable in order to share that. And
Yes.
I think that's what people connect with. People came up to me and said, "Look, you've said something that I haven't been able to find the words for, or now I know I'm not alone. I thought I was doing this, doing that, whatever. Now I know I'm not alone." So, it was quite powerful. And it has led me into the profession now of getting certified as a life coach.
Right.
So what I actually do is I help people go through a similar process of what I've done, to understand my experiences, to go into, those things that we have gone through in our lives, and to find meaning, to find what that has meant for your life, to find any mistaken beliefs that you've built around that thing. And I had many mistaken beliefs that I had taken on. I don't call them false beliefs. I don't call them limiting beliefs. I call them mistaken beliefs, because we mistakenly believe in a falsity about ourselves. And the number one falsity, I think, is that I'm not enough. I think so many people struggle with that. I did. And so many that I work with do as well. And, but the good news is that there is a light to be found. There is a light to be found inside of everything that has happened to us. It's, for the longest time, it felt like I had a heavy weight, a stone around my neck. There was on a rope, and it was around my neck, and it was weighing me down. But really and truly, like those experiences, once I shifted my thinking, shifted my mindset around that, they've become my wings. I stand on top of my experiences now. I'm no longer in the guts of them, if you will. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yes, I do.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
So that's in a few minutes. That's been my journey in a nutshell, I guess, over the last few years. Yeah.
Right. So for any kind of creative expression, It's my pet theory that there needs to be a stimulus, either a immense tragedy or or happiness in some
Yeah.
ecstatic form.
Mm-hmm.
A person leading a mediocre life, it's very difficult for him or her to come up with any kind of a creative thing. Do you agree?
Actually, I don't.
Okay.
And here's why.
Uh-huh.
In my courses, in my programs, in my workshops, I
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of people come and say to me, look, I don't have a creative bone in my body.
Mm-hmm.
And I call bullshit on that.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has. If you've lived, you've had experiences.
Right.
Even if your experiences, as you described them just then, were mediocre, you have felt something inside of that experience that can be expressed.
Mm-hmm.
And you do have the creative ability to do that. Now, is it going to be a masterpiece, like a Monet or something? Probably not.
Mm.
And it doesn't have to be.
Mm.
It doesn't have to be. It just has to be something that's meaningful for you. And it's actually the process of creating that, it's like the journey of life are the steps that we take, right? It's not the end result. It's the journey that makes sense. It's the same thing with creating. It is that journey of creating, of exploring, of going inside and seeing what's there. What does your soul want to say? Maybe your soul wants to say, get off the couch. Maybe that's what it wants to say.
Right.
Right? And there's a way to express that.
Sure. I was thinking of an example in the sense that if you had a 50-pound weight on your back,
Mm-hmm.
and if you had a 10-pound weight on your back, when the 50-pound gets off your back, the relief is much more than what a 10-pound bag off your shoulder would feel.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, for you to be able to come up with something creative, you need an impetus, right? You need something which is struggling to come outside. So it can come out in the form of an art, it can come out in the form of a song, writing, whatever. But is there a certain amount of kinetic energy that's necessary? That's my question.
I don't think so, because you know why? When you removed a 50-pound weight and you removed a 10-pound weight, guess what? You finally start to feel your back.
Mm. Okay.
Right? That's the point. And I talk about this a lot, about trauma, because we have this impression as a society, as a I think, modern culture today, that trauma are these capital T events, I call them, like the veteran is coming home from a war-torn country, or the refugee that's fleeing from one, or someone who has gone through a tremendous tragedy, or a tremendous adversity, health adversity, or something very life-threatening kind of thing. We understand and we recognize that as the capital T traumas, right? Mm-hmm. But there's so many other traumas that express themselves and compound themselves into what can feel like a capital T trauma. You don't have to have been in a war-torn country to experience the emotional weight, the 50-pound, if you will, right, of that, So like there is, like something could have happened in childhood. Somebody could have looked at you the wrong way, or some kid was probably mean to you, or maybe a teacher said something and you incorporated that as I'm never going to measure up to something, and I'm never going to be successful, or whatever. Then that's a belief that you've taken on. That's something that you're taking in and choosing to believe. And you know what? Our 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 8, 10, 15-year-old minds do that, right? They actually do that all the time. All of us go through that, right? But it's when then life starts happening. So, you're a 15-year-old and you have, you get rejected by your boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. Then you're a 25-year-old and you know, you can't seem to get a job, or no one seems to understand what you're trying to do, or whatever, that compounds,
Right.
you know? So like all of these little things get built and packed on top of mistaken beliefs, and they cause trauma.
Right.
And all that trauma is a disturbing or distressing thought, event or thought. You know, that's all it is, something that's disturbing and distressing, right? That's either you're creating in your mind, because half of the stuff that we create is just, it's false. It's just stories we're telling ourselves, right?
Right.
You know, so I mean, like what I'm trying to say is that even though you don't have a capital T trauma, you can be traumatized. And I think that the word trauma is actually very misunderstood in today's mass media or mainstream media. You know, I think we see it as this big, you know, sudden event or something that people, you know, humongous experience that people have, but it's all the little things compounded as well that can have such a cumulative effect on our lives. But everything goes back to a thought, everything.
Yeah, of course. Everything arises and falls within the thought. And if you observe the thought, it kind of vanishes into thin air. So for you, let's start with the songwriting process. What exactly triggers a song? So
sometimes it can be just the intention, you know, of wanting to write a song about something.
Okay. So
you know,
what is the about?
Well, for example, my husband, I wanted to write a song about him.
Okay.
So, you know, I sat down and I connected with all of the feelings that I have, you know, and I sat down with pen and paper, and I wrote a song about him. It's called By Your Side. It's like, it's a love song, you know, but you just have to you have to turn off that inner critic, number one, no matter what kind, whether you're making a gourmet meal that steps outside of the recipe, or you're writing a song, or, you know, you're planting a garden and that you're not your first time gardener. It doesn't matter. You just got to turn off that inner critic and let creativity speak.
Right. So there's no process to this. I mean, there is no that, okay, these are the chords that I'm going to use. I'm going to use a C and then go and build it from there, and nothing like that. Everything is organic.
And organic in the sense that it has to come from within. Yes.
Okay.
And I think you need to be able to get in touch with your intuition. And, you know, people do that in different ways. And I teach people in my programs actually how to reconnect, because, you know, we all were completely aligned with our intuition as children.
True.
No, one thing you probably don't know about me, Nanda, is that I'm a teacher by trade. I studied.
I know.
Okay.
I did a fair bit of homework about you.
Okay. Well, I studied to be a primary teacher, you know, many years ago.
Right.
Right. But, you know, I worked with children a lot. And I mean, the one thing you'll notice with children, it starts changing once they enter school, of course, but especially young toddlers. I mean, they are only attracted and we're only willing to do something if they think they're going to be happy, if it's going to make them feel good, right?
Right.
You know, they follow their intuition. They go where their intuition tells them to go. And we turn that off. We start turning it off, and what we start turning up is the self-judgment. You know, is that comparison. And this is what happens when kids get in around school age, you know, that's that whole thing starts to happen. You know, and I mean, I could talk for hours about that, but
yeah.
But yeah, I forget what your question was now around that. About the process, was it about the process? Yeah. I mean, it is about just getting in touch with yourself and feeling that inner wisdom, because we all have it. We all have it.
Right.
We were born with it.
So when did we become separate from our inner selves? Do you think that's the reason to blame, or is it that because unless you separate yourself from your inner self, you can't have doubts about it. You can't go back to it. So what causes the separation?
I really think is the beginning process of judgment, self-judgment and comparison. I truly believe that. And I mean, you see it with little kids in kindergarten, you know,
Yes,
you see it happen and you see it beginning. Yeah.
In fact, children don't even address themselves as I. They address themselves with their first name. I've seen some kids do that. I mean,
yeah.
Johnny doesn't want this, or Sheila doesn't want that.
Speaking in third person.
Yeah, speaking in third person. Yeah. So they're still in that state, I'm guessing. But you've always been involved with what you may call it, charity programs and with children and stuff.
Right? Yeah, I have. I worked in charity my career for almost 20 years. Or no, sorry, about 15. But I guess as a volunteer, I've been certainly, you know, right. for several decades. Yeah.
And that's at that point is where you went to Saudi Arabia to teach English.
Yes, I have such a strange story. Oh my goodness. I gave up teaching pretty much in my 20s, early 20s. And, right. You know, I just felt, I'll be totally 100% transparent, I didn't feel like it fit me. At that time, as a young woman, I just didn't, it made me feel frumpy, if that's a word I can use. I don't know how else. It made me feel old and stuffy, and right. It just didn't seem to fit me. It didn't feel right. So I started doing other things, and I ended up going into business management, and, you know, running several businesses, had several businesses of my own. Also became a CEO, executive director as well, of several different charities, you know, over the years. So I had done that for quite a while, and I had found some success with that. And but I reached a point. I was 43 years old. And, you know, to the outside world, I looked like I had everything going well. You know, I had a nice home, nice car, a great job. I was single, no children. You know, gosh, she's footloose, fancy free, you know. She's got the life, right, kind of thing. But inside, I felt there had to be something more. I just really felt like there had to be something more than just working, you know, my butt off to pay for a mortgage. I was like, gosh, this is not, life's got to mean more to it than this, right?
Right.
So anyway, at the time, as it would happen, and I don't believe there's ever any mistakes, by the way, I live my life that way. But the charity that I was CEO of at the time, their mandate had kind of their niche was expired. They like this, what they had been set up to do was no longer needed, basically. So as the CEO, I went to the board of directors and said, look, you know, either you change your mandate, you know, change the direction of this charity, or you close up shop. You have two choices. But either way, I'm going. Like I knew I was reached a point right there and then that I want to do something else different. I don't know what it is. I have no idea what it was. But I knew I wanted to do something different in charity management at the time, because I was probably a little bit burnt out, to be honest, from it. Working a lot, you know. And so anyway, I was exploring different things. You know, I come from Newfoundland, Canada. Yes. Newfoundland and Labrador on the east coast of Canada. And our oil and gas business was booming back then, you know, back in at that time, and had been for a while. So I started, you know, applying for a few jobs there in communications and marketing, that kind of thing. And I was thinking, I had a catering company that I was running on the side, my own catering company, because I love to cook. So I was thinking maybe I'd explore that and explode it a little bit, go bigger. I was all over the place, and a friend called and said, look, one of our mutual friends needs to find a new home for her cat.
Right.
because she's leaving, she's gone away, and she needs a new home. So do you want to go over and have a look at her cat? So I did. I went over. And in chatting with her, she was heading to Saudi Arabia. And, she said, Michelle, I told her, what I was doing and looking for something different. And she said, you got an education degree, don't you? And I said, yeah. She said, why don't you come and teach English in university? I said, my gosh. I said, I haven't taught in almost 20 years. I've never taught English as a second language. And in Saudi Arabia, are you mad? Right? But, and that was all there was to it. I took the cat. I went home. I took the cat, by the way. But a couple of weeks later, the recruiter was in town, and she was meeting with him. And she said to me, why don't you come and have lunch with us? We're having lunch at the university. Come over. So I did. Mm-hmm. And in that conversation, of course, he won me over. He talked about female empowerment and about, an all-female university and how things were changing in Saudi back then. And I mean, this was 12 years ago. And
right.
It appealed, like it was ticking off my boxes. You know what I mean? And it was adventure. It gave me, I always loved to travel. I hadn't been able to do it in recent years. So I said, what the hell? I'll put in an application, So I threw in an application. 2 months later, I was on a plane to Saudi Arabia. And everyone, I mean, literally everybody in my family, my friends, they all thought that I was losing my mind. What's she at? Why is she going back to a profession that she doesn't like to begin with in Saudi Arabia? What's going on? Is she okay? Uh-huh. And I mean, in a lot of ways, I was losing my mind. I was searching for something more. I literally told myself, give it 3 months. You can do anything for 3 months, 90 days. You can do anything you put your mind to for 90 days. You can always come back, is what I told myself. You can always come back to here and do whatever then. So I had that calling inside of me for adventure, and I followed it. And my gosh, what it has led to. Well, number one, I found out that I was a different teacher in my 40s than I was in my 20s, and I really liked it. I actually really liked it. And I continued and studied and got my master's actually in teaching English second language after that. Right. But it has also led me back to my first love, my husband now. We had met in 1992 in Newfoundland.
And the anniversary is coming up. Happy anniversary.
Thank you so much. You have done your homework. My, I'm impressed. But we reconnected again on a beach in Goa. Right, in 2012. He was living there at the time, and I was in Saudi. And I eventually moved there with him, and we lived in India for another 3 years. And we've been here in Norway now for, 5, I guess. I moved back here 5 now. Yeah. So, I mean, quite a journey, quite a journey.
Yeah. And then you went to Korea as well, isn't it?
I was to Korea. Yeah, because that first year in Saudi, oh my gosh, that was a hard year because we had a really.
Were you allowed to drive in Saudi? Sorry. Were you allowed to drive in Saudi?
Not then, but they are now. They are now allowed.
Things are improving, I believe.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, it was full on Saudi back then, Right. But we had a terrible employer. So after the first year, I was like, I'm done. I'm getting out of here. And I decided I would go back to the little ones. So I left from teaching university to teaching, just early primary kids in South Korea. And part of that was kind of like to prove to myself that I still had that much energy at 45, to be able to do that. So I proved it, but I was like, no, I got to go back to university. I got to go back teaching the university level because seriously, at the end of the day, I was exhausted. Like the little ones take it out of you, right?
Right.
I have such admiration for people who are teaching those little kids because you need to be energy plus. So I ended up back in Saudi then for 2 more years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I had a little break. I had a year in between. I had 1 year there, then 1 year in Korea, and then 2 back in Saudi. Yeah.
How's your stint in Gujarat?
Gujarat was good.
Uh-huh.
Of course, you know, it was a little challenging for us because it's a dry state in respect to Gandhi.
Mm-hmm.
It's Gandhi's state, and
right.
we were in Ahmedabad, which is Gandhi's city. You know, his ashram was there. So it was also pretty much vegetarian, you know, almost completely. I used to have to go to several different places to buy what I needed for our food items. Like, because I mean, a lot of grocery stores wouldn't even carry eggs. You had to, because, you know, like they wouldn't have mayonnaise that had eggs in it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you had to go to specialty shops for those kinds of things, any kind of Western product, of course. And, so yeah, that was a little challenging. So we traveled around the country. We traveled around India quite a bit. Back to Goa several times. I really loved Goa.
Yeah.
And of course Calcutta and Chennai and Delhi.
Did you go to Kerala by any chance?
Yes, went to Kerala. Did the river boats in Kerala. I loved it. Is that where you're from? Are you originally?
Yeah, my roots are from Kerala. Yes.
Right. Beautiful part of the country. Beautiful. Right. I mean, India is fascinating. Like I've told everybody that has asked me, you know, go visit India. It's like visiting 10 plus countries in one. Yeah, it's so diverse. So diverse.
It's a mosaic of cultures and colors and everything, right?
Oh God, yes. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Did India have anything to do with your awakening? You would think?
Well, I did have a little bit of time in India my first year there. I didn't start working right away. But so I actually did buy some painting supplies. Because my painting experience happened, very first one was, oh my gosh, if I can remember the year now. What year was that, I wonder? That was probably
2014, 15?
No, like 6, 7, 8, something like that. 2006 or 7. I painted these small little pictures for 9 of my friends for Christmas. Okay. I was short on funds that year. I was having some financial troubles, and so I was like, what am I going to give my girlfriends? You know, I want to give them something. I was walking around Walmart and ended up in the craft supply section. I'll paint them a picture. Right? I'd never done that before, but I painted those 9 pictures, gave them to him, and that was it. I never did anything with painting again until, what year was that in India? So that would have been
2014 to 15.
13 or 14, yeah. My first year there, 2013, I bought some paint supplies, made, again, just a couple of pictures, but that was it. I didn't have any like attachment to it, no real drive to go any further, to explore or anything. It was actually in Newfoundland. I was home for Christmas, and it was New Year's Day 2017 when I was in my old family home, sorting through some old storage boxes, came across those first paints that I had bought so long ago. So it was New Year's Day. I was doing nothing, and so I just pulled it all out and I made a picture, and I felt something. I felt something. Like something stirred inside me. I can't tell you what it was, but maybe just curiosity.
Right.
Right. So then when we came back to Norway after Christmas, I bought some more supplies, started painting, and it was literally like the dam opened. Okay. I was painting in my sleep. Seriously, I had 7, 8 paintings going at a time. I painted 138 pieces that first year and sold almost all of them.
Wow.
So, yeah. So to people in 7 different countries. So, power of the internet, my gosh. And so I got serious about it then. I got serious about it. Okay, there's something here that I need to explore. There's something that maybe I could potentially turn into a proper business. That's business girl inside of me. She's still there, right?
Right.
So yeah, and it's led me to down this journey of self-discovery and now of service. I mean, it's what I want to do with my life, Nanda. Is use this to serve, to help other people find their light, you know, to actually find their way from the inside out.
Yeah. So the reason why I was talking about all these the different countries that you went, the kind of things that you did, all these things kind of prepare you for where you are right now.
Yeah.
Because right now, you with this kind of experience, with this kind of experience, both in terms of traveling and internal experiences and everything, has given you a point from which you've kind of broadened out, right? Your vision of things, and so that way you're more credible as a life coach, is what I would think.
I think what I've learned since I made that decision, you know, remember I told you I was sat on my couch 12 years ago. And when I decided to get off the couch and to actually go in search of that something more, it was that one single decision that has led me down this road. Because I could have easily sat there. I could have easily continued, you know, easily made a life for myself there, you know, keeping doing what I was doing, even though, like, you know, it wasn't bad. It was good. It just wasn't great. You know, it wasn't, I felt like there was something more.
You felt there was a missing piece.
Yeah, there was something else for me. And, so I went on and doing that then, in the steps that I took, I proved to myself, I gained confidence that you can take risks, that it can pay off, that, you know, you can follow your dream, you can realize it, you know, by doing this. But it's a lot about mindset. It's about how we think about ourselves to begin with, and then everything else falls from there.
Right. So you have these programs that you run. How often are they? Are they online? Do people come and see you?
Yeah, well, not right now, I guess, with COVID, you know, but and basically because I'm between Canada, Norway, and wherever else my two footloose and fancy free feet take me these days, because we do travel quite a lot.
Right.
I have been, and COVID has given me the push to do this, to get my programs and workshops and everything online, digitally, to use technology to be able to do this, to be able to help people with my programs, you know. So I'm focusing, yes, on online, you know, doing my coaching. And now, I mean, that's not to say that I'm not open to face-to-face. I would absolutely love that. But in today's, what's happening today, I'm not sure when that's going to be possible, you know.
Very unfortunate, yeah.
Right?
But, yeah, that's true. But you do have plans to go to Newfoundland sometime in August, right?
Well, we had, but we can't do that anymore.
We can't do that anymore, okay.
You know, because, I mean, it doesn't make any sense to go there and have to be quarantined for 2 weeks. Then, you know, I get to see my mother after being there for 2 weeks, then spend a few days with her, come back and be quarantined here. Honestly, I don't see us being able to go to North America until the spring 2021. I don't think that's going to be possible. You know, the borders are pretty, well, I mean, they're pretty cautious, and rightly so.
Yeah, rightly so. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you know.
So
yeah, so I mean, what I'm doing then, so what COVID has really propelled me, put a fire under my butt, is to get my programs up there and be the lighthouse. I've been running that coaching program now for the last month and a half. And that's going really, really well. And I mean, you know, we're using Zoom, right? We're using Zoom like we are right now to have a conversation. We're also interacting inside of our private Facebook group.
Mm-hmm.
You know, most everybody is online these days. The connections that the participants are having with each other is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't matter where you are in the world. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we can learn and grow together.
Right.
It's incredible. Yeah.
And that is a certain amount of when you're in your own environment, you probably open up a little better, I'm guessing.
I think while you're relaxed, you're at home,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
but it does, I mean, it does take people a while to warm up to strangers. Not everybody is extroverted in the beginning, you
Right.
know, but once you understand that it's a trusting and supportive and respectful
Mm-hmm.
space, which is what I build. I maintain that. Like you know, that's my job as the coach, to create that kind of an environment, to create that atmosphere where people do feel comfortable. You
Mm-hmm.
know, where people are not pressured to share if they don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but that I want an environment where people learn also from each other's experiences, you
Right.
know, have their breakthrough moments together, you know, in
Mm-hmm.
their own lives. You know, like the participants in my program right now, they all came in with different goals.
Okay.
But they're coming out on the other side of it with so much more clarity and certainty about where and how they're going to achieve, you know, what it is, what they've discovered inside of this program that is their purpose, that is the thing that they want. You know, I walk people through a process of really finding out, what do I want
Mm.
for them, for their lives, you know, and I do it through creative means. I use my art programs. I bring that kind of discovery through art into the program. I also use a lot of writing, you know, self-reflection, journaling,
Mm.
and guided journaling, like
Mm.
targeted journaling. Asking the right questions of yourself to
Mm.
get the answers that you need. I mean, that's important, right?
Right.
Is to have the right questions, you
Right.
know, to otherwise because we get lost in a spin, you
That's
know,
right.
when people just get lost spinning in so many different directions. You know, it's about finding that focus, finding the clarity, getting certain.
Mm.
I watched a TED talk,
Uh-huh.
maybe about 2 years ago,
Uh-huh.
by Jane Fonda. I don't know if you're a fan of Jane Fonda, but she did this TED talk. I believe the title is called The Third Act.
Huh.
And in that, she talks about, you know, there is a point in your life that you come to that you want to make sense of it all. You know, you understand that, okay, this is my last kick at the can, basically.
Mm.
You know, if I'm lucky to have another couple of decades, this is my last kick at the can.
Mm.
How am I going to make it count?
Mm.
You know, and it is going back into what we talked about earlier, those dark moments, to find out what are you passionate about?
Mm.
You know, your passion comes from your pain.
Mm. You're right. You're
Right?
absolutely right.
You know, but okay, we've all had pain. So how do you make sense out of that? You know, how do you pull out that nugget that this is okay, this is what I'm meant to be at? Well, that's what I help people with.
Wow.
That's what I call there's something more. You know, I go down that road of like helping them find there's something more. Right?
Oh, that's awesome.
It's exhilarating. It's like listen, there's no doubt in my mind this is what I went through all that shit for.
Exactly.
You know, that's
exactly.
what I went through. Everything I went for is to be able to do this right now.
Yeah, that's exactly what I feel too. So that's why I asked you if you'd have to have a certain amount of a life experience, you know, a very moving and intense life experience. It need not necessarily be sadness. It could be even ecstasy.
No, exactly.
Yeah, but you do need that the winding of the spring.
Yeah.
Before it uncoils and releases that energy.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, you don't have to have the capital T traumas in order to figure out what to do with your life.
True.
You know, but you have to get in touch with who you are.
Right.
What's important to you.
Right.
And that is a process of
Right.
discovery.
Right.
You know, it's about understanding mind management. It's about understanding different levels of awareness. It's about putting those kinds of principles into practice, into your daily life.
Mm.
You know, and that's what I teach. That's what I teach.
So be the lighthouse. So you're a lighthouse unto yourself, right? It's not for the others.
We are all lighthouses. We all have the capacity. This is why I named the program that, actually.
Okay.
And people think it's because I grew up at a lighthouse. Well, it's probably a little bit of that, because I did. I'm the daughter of a lighthouse keeper.
Right.
And I grew up at Cape Pine Lighthouse in Newfoundland. And come from 6 generations of lighthouse keepers. And just a little tidbit for your audience there, because I'm sure being Americans, maybe, if that's what the listening audience is, they're well aware of the Titanic.
Yes.
Right? And it was one of my ancestors that took the distress signal for the Titanic. It was a mile. Yeah. Wow. So, I mean, listen, it comes natural to me to help people, to help guide people, I guess, if you want to get cliche about it, right?
No, it's there. It's all there up in your bio. The way that you worked with charities, the way you worked with children. At every stage you were helping. So
It is part of my nature, because you know what? I'll be the first to say it. I've been helped.
Okay.
People have helped me. People have been in my corner when I needed them to be there. Right. So I understand how much that means.
So you're
and
paying
I understand what it takes.
Right. You're paying it forward then.
Yeah, exactly.
So do you meditate?
I do. Yes, I do.
Okay.
And I think that's a wonderful way of reconnecting with that source that we talked about, you know.
Right.
Right. It's and the more that I connect with that, whether it be through my painting or through meditation or through my walks in the woods, just connecting with nature, the more I feel, the more ideas come to me, the more innovative I am, the more me I am, you know, the more I trust who I am.
Right.
Right. And that process, I mean, that's, I think when you get there, when you get with that, you know, starting to accept yourself and starting to, you know, trust who you are, like be okay with who you are, accept who you are, and even love yourself, you know, I mean, it just opens up everything. Oh my gosh.
It does.
Right? It just opens up everything. Yeah. So
thanks very much, Michelle. You had something for our listeners.
Well, I hope so. I would like to offer your listeners something in case they might be interested in it. I'm giving a free workshop on August 15th. And depending on where people are signing up from, I'm scheduling it now for what's the central time? I'm just thinking what's the Eastern time? 10:30 a.m. in the morning is a Saturday morning Eastern time, which is 2:30 my time in Norway. But if I have a lot of people like in Central and Mountain time, I'll run it again. But people would, and this workshop is going to take 45 minutes.
Okay.
And I take people through a process. Even if you've never made art before, you don't have to have any experience. But I take people through a process of how they can use art to embody awareness.
Okay. And
the concept behind this whole workshop is, you have these aha moments of your life, right? Something will happen and, you know, it speaks to you. And in fact, your soul responds to it. I think we all have this, you know, inner wisdom that can recognize truth when it hears it. And so we have these aha moments and we go, yeah, I get it. I see it. And then, you know what? You're busy getting the kids ready for school, or you got to get to work, or you got to whatever, you know?
Right.
And life comes in and that aha moment gets lost. I call these our inner wisdoms. In fact, I call them warrior wisdoms. And what I teach people how to do in this little workshop is how to take those warrior wisdoms and really embody the awareness of that moment for yourself. Expressively, like in an art journal. So the workshop is about coming to get the information, and you actually make your own art for you once I guide you how, you know, once you have that knowledge of how to go about it. Because once again, this is a creative process that is for you, for your development, for, you know, not something to put up on a wall or not something to try to sell or anything like that, but it's for your own awareness, for your own growth.
Okay.
Right. And yeah, so it's an interesting workshop. It's short, but it's packed full of information. And if people want to sign up for it, they actually have to register, so I can send out the Zoom link.
Okay.
They can go on my website. It's michellemyrick.com//art, A-R-T.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I got that.
And I guess you'll put that in the show notes or somewhere, I guess.
I'll most certainly do that.
Cool.
And again, it's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Absolutely. My pleasure as well. It's just, I love talking about these kinds of things. And as you can see, I'm very passionate. I could go on for hours. Right?
Okay.
But also too, like, I mean, I do live trainings every single week inside of my Facebook group. I forgot to mention that. I got a lot on the go, Nanda. Right? Like, I have a Facebook group called Heart of the Matter.
Heart of the Matter, okay.
Heart of the Matter. And in there, I do free trainings every Thursday. I sometimes have guest people come in as well, or guest members, like members of the group that join me for a conversation. In fact, I've had several, you know, over the last few weeks that have joined us, but all of those are recorded inside and in the archive, in the video archive there. I've been doing it for over 40 weeks. So there's 40 weeks of free coaching in there if somebody is interested. Yeah. And it's about everything we've talked about today. It's about how to really, you know, get in touch with your mind. What's going on in there? What's holding you back? And fix it. You know, we're only going this way once. Don't be wasting any more time. Right?
Yes, indeed.
No.
So yeah, so if you can probably, I've written things down, but if you have an email, if you can email me with the details, it'll be great, so that I can accurately put things down on the show notes as well as on the Facebook page.
Certainly, I can do that. Yeah, for sure.
So thank you again.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me here. It's been a pleasure.
Likewise. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.